What is going on, everybody out there in the YouTube trucking community? Sean Cahalan, Christian Brother Trucker, coming at you again with another video today. And today I was going to cover fuel management at night transportation. So I had a request by one of the viewers to do a video specifically touching on fuel management and the fuel bonus structure here at night transportation. And first off, I want to give a shout out to all my viewers out there. I really appreciate all you guys. I'm up to about 230 viewers or something like that. And it's really awesome to have that many viewers, and a lot of you are making suggestions on content for videos, and there's a lot of good interaction going on in the comment sections of the videos and all of that, and I really appreciate all that interaction. And I'm also starting to get recognized around night transportation, around some of the yards and terminal locations. People are walking up to me and recognize me on YouTube. So that's a pretty neat experience too. So thank you to all my viewers and subscribers out there. It means a lot that you guys enjoy the content that I put out. And I just try to put stuff on here that's relevant and helps people out, and try to share some of the knowledge that I have. Sometimes it's limited, sometimes it's not the best information. I'm not perfect. I just do the best I can when I can. And if it helps somebody, then that's all I can hope for. So if you like my channel, you like me, please hit that like and subscribe, and share my videos with your friends or anybody else, coworkers or anybody else that you know on social media. Help get the word out there and help me out a little bit. And if you're thinking about coming over to night transportation, and you give them a call, and you're a new driver or an experienced driver, when you give them a call and talk to a recruiter, just give them my driver code, which is 24807, and let them know that Sean Cahalan sent you over and said that night transportation is an awesome company. To bring you up to speed on what's going on with me right now, I've had a trainee on my truck. He did some local driving with another trainer for a couple of weeks, and then he got on the truck with me to do 2 weeks OTR to get things finished up. So he's doing really well. We're covering a lot of miles, working really hard. Had a couple of issues with the truck. I got my newer red truck back. It had to have an engine replacement because the oil pump gears went out, and so they put a new motor in it, and wouldn't you know it, immediately I had a problem. It broke down at the fuel pump at a Love's, and I shut it off and it wouldn't start. So after a couple of hours of tinkering with it with a technician from Love's, we finally figured out that the terminals that went to the starter motor were both loose. And so I grabbed some wrenches, and the technician was really busy, so he had to go back over to the Love's shop and work on some tires, and he was like, well, I'll be back in a little bit. And I said, well, just give me a couple of sockets and I'll jump up underneath there and tighten them down. And so I did, got it fired up, got out of there. So that's the latest and greatest on my truck. It's doing pretty good. It's kind of comfortable. We've had a couple of little issues with it. It's got a tablet in there that does the auto idle shut off. It's supposed to do the, it's kind of like the Opti idle on the Freightliners. It's called Smart Idle. But since they did the engine replacement, the tablet that's in the bunk is not communicating with the ECM on the truck, so it's not working right. So they had to change the parameters in order to let it idle when I need it to idle, instead of using the tablet until I can take it to a shop and get it diagnosed and fixed further. Anyway, on to the main content. Fuel management. So at night transportation, they do their fuel bonus. It's 1 cent per mile, but there's a kicker bonus that you will get on if you hit all three of your bonuses. So you have production, safety, and fuel. And if you don't hit your fuel, you're not going to hit your kicker bonus. So your production is up to 4 cents a mile. Safety is 1 penny. and fuel is another penny. But if you hit all three, then you get a kicker bonus of 2 extra cents per mile. So you can make up to 8 cents per mile. Now, if you don't hit your fuel bonus, then that means that you are going to be short 3 cents per mile, which is going to retro back for the entire month for all the miles that you drove that month. So this can be quite a bit of money. It can be $800 to $1,000 depending on how many miles you put in. So it's no small thing. And it's taken me quite a long time to figure out the ins and outs of the fuel management and the way that Knight does it here. It's pretty complex, and I will do my best to explain it. So the old way of tracking your fuel was to use a notebook or a notepad, and when you start tracking your fuel, what you do is you fill your tanks all the way up to full, and then you write down your odometer. And you can write a date down if you want to, but you want to write down your beginning odometer. And on your first, on your first fill up, it doesn't really matter if you write down how many gallons you put in. So on the first fill up, you want to fill it up to the same level in your tanks every single time to get yourself the most accurate number on your next fill up. So what do I mean by this? Well, there's a neck, a filler neck inside your tanks, and when you fill up your tanks, you want to go up to the bottom of that filler neck or fill it all the way full to where you can't put any more fuel in there, but you want to do it the same way every single time. Like, you don't want to fill it all the way to the top of the filler neck one time and then not top off your tanks the second time. You want to consistently fill up your tanks the same every time. So once you establish your odometer reading at the first fill up, then what you do is at your second fill up, you're going to write your odometer number down at that point, and then you're going to write down how many gallons of fuel that you put in. And then you're going to subtract your beginning odometer from your ending odometer, and that'll give you your miles that you've driven. Then you take those miles and you divide it by the gallons, and it's going to give you miles per gallon. If you do that every single time that you fill up, you'll be able to get a running count of your actual MPG or your real MPG. This is going to cover all miles and basically give you a rough aggregate that's going to include your idle time, because your idle time, you're not going to be producing miles, you're just going to be burning of fuel. So it's going to be indicative of your actual MPG, miles and gallons. Now, Knight Transportation does things a little weird, and so basically what they do is they take their your loaded miles only, your dispatched miles only. So that's going to include any deadhead. That's going to include any it's just all dispatched miles, loaded and deadhead. Like, if you go home, you drop the load and then you deadhead home, you're not going to get those miles. But when you dispatch out from the house, the deadhead that you get coming out of the house, you'll get that. So what they do is they take that number and then they use that as the divider, and then they take how many gallons that you've purchased from Saturday midnight to Saturday midnight. So that's going to go in as gallons purchased. Okay, so right there, you're running at kind of a loss with what you would be tracking as far as your real MPG, doing it if you're tracking it with a notebook. So if you track it, you'll get a real number in your head, and you get to know your truck pretty well. You should be able to kind of decide and predict, how well your truck is going to do MPG wise, depending on the weight, where you're headed, whether you're going to be pulling in the mountains a lot, or if you're just going to be cutting across Wyoming, Nebraska with a light load and you're not cutting across any wind, you're going to do pretty good. So once you track it, you'll get pretty good at being able to kind of determine up front what you think your truck's going to get MPG wise. But as far as the real numbers are concerned, or what Knight Transportation is going to use as your numbers, may be quite a bit off from what you're actually tracking. So a couple of things that you want to do if you're wanting to hit this fuel bonus pretty consistently. You don't want to fill up your truck on Saturday and, have a whole bunch of extra fuel on at the end of the month. If you do, it's going to throw off your numbers. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to run your truck down to about a quarter tank to empty, as close to empty as you can get it, so that you can end the month off strong. If you don't do this and you put too much fuel on and then you go home and you don't post any more loads for the week, it's going to artificially throw off your numbers, because they're measuring it based on calendar days. So it's really complex, and it's really hard to predict what's going to happen, because a lot of things can throw it off. If you put fuel on and then you break down and you don't run on Saturday, that's going to throw your numbers off. Also, on a lot of these trucks, you need to verify your fuel gauge and whether or not it's reading right. So on my current Volvo and the Volvo that I had before, when that truck reads empty, when it says it's completely out of fuel, I still have on about 50 gallons worth of fuel. So that means that I only have about 150 gallons of usable fuel if I'm going to go off the dash readout. But what that's going to do is it's going to show full, and then once it gets past halfway, it's going to artificially drop off really fast. So I know in my mind that my actual onboard fuel, when that fuel light comes on, is 50 gallons. So really quickly in my mind, I know that I have about 350 miles once that fuel light comes on to stop and get fuel. Now, me personally, I don't like running my truck that low on fuel all the time. I've had to do it quite a bit here to try to hit the fuel numbers, and it's tough to figure out, because it's tough to predict what you're going to be doing every day. Because if you're fueling up every day, if you're putting a lesser amount of fuel on and you're putting just enough on to get through the day, you could probably get by with about 70 to 75 gallons. Maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more. I think actually you'd probably need right around 80 to 85 gallons per day in order to make it through the day. So, because 7 times 8 is 56, so 70, if you put 70 gallons on and you're getting 8 mpg, you'll have 560 miles worth of range. So if you're looking at a trip and you know that it's not going to deliver until Monday, and you know that fuel cutoff is Saturday, what you want to do is you want to put just enough fuel on to get that load delivered. And always check with your fleet managers and kind of coordinate with them the fueling. Because like I said, it's really, really, really complicated, and I still haven't worked out a mathematical formula on how to make it work, because I always end up putting too much fuel on. But I guess it's old habits that I just, when I stop at the truck stops, I like to fill it up, especially during the middle of the week. But that's kind of been biting me in the rump. Towards the end of the week, if my truck breaks down, I go in the shop, or I end up sitting, or whatever the case may be. But and you're trying to follow the fuel dispatch and the fuel recommendations and when they tell you to fuel and all of that. So just verify your truck fuel capacity. The way that you do that is you run your truck down until the gauge reads 1/8 of a tank, almost empty. Wait till that fuel light comes on, or a little bit, right when that fuel light comes on, pull into a truck stop and fill it all the way up, and pay attention to how much fuel you're able to put in those tanks. So for instance, if you have dual 100-gallon tanks and your fuel light comes on at 1/8 of a tank, then that means that you should only have about 15 to 20 gallons of fuel in that truck. So if it only holds 150 to fill it the rest of the way up, then you know immediately that when that fuel light comes on, you actually have 50 gallons of fuel in. So if your truck is set up this way, you can't rely on that dash to tell you how much fuel that you're putting in there. Or there's one of two ways to look at this. One is you have to track it yourself and not use the dashboard. If you don't use the dashboard, all you got to do is pay attention to how much fuel you're putting in and project out how much range you think you have based on the MPG. Because the MPG on the truck is still accurate even though the fuel gauge is messed with or modified. The other way to do this is every time that fuel light comes on, fill it up. Don't run it past the fuel light. You know, like me, what I do is I keep running after that fuel light comes on until I keep going even after the truck says it's empty. Because I know that the truck still has, 40 gallons or so of usable fuel, so I keep right on trucking. So like I said, it's really confusing and it's really hard to manage your fuel. But the best advice that I can give you is don't fill it up all the way, especially on Saturday. Run it down as far as you can. Put off fueling up the truck on Saturday until Monday. And then on Monday, only put enough fuel on to get your load delivered. Or on Saturday, if you have to put more fuel on to make it to your delivery, put just enough fuel on Saturday to get to your delivery on Monday. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, you basically want to run that truck low on fuel deliberately on Saturday so that after it cuts off and your fuel purchasing resets on that next Monday, then you can fill it up. However, keep in mind that if you fill it up on Monday and you break down or you go home for a week, you're going to have way too much fuel on and you're not going to be posting enough loaded miles on there or dispatch miles. So it's going to say that you're getting like 4 MPG because it takes your gallons purchased plus your posted miles. So that's how you do fuel management. I hope this information helps you guys out there. I know it's really, really complicated, and it is. It's not the way that I'm used to tracking fuel, but it's the way Knight Transportation does it, and they do it because they don't want us putting a whole bunch of fuel on there because they say it's a consumable item. It's not an inventory that they want to carry from week to week. So if fuel prices drop from, let's say it's $4.25 one week a gallon, and then the next week it's $4 a gallon, well, now they're sitting on a whole bunch of fuel that was purchased the week before because everybody filled their trucks all the way up. So you're wasting money in that aspect. So yeah, just keep in mind that you want to double check and make sure that you understand how much capacity your truck has. Double check your capacity and your fuel gauge. And if your fuel gauge is off, keep that in mind when you're calculating your fuel in your range. Because that caused me to miss a couple of my fuel bonuses because I didn't understand that the truck wasn't reading right. They do it so that we don't run out of fuel. But it was it's kind of important information to know, especially if you want to be able to manage your fuel properly. So hopefully by me giving you this information, you'll have a better leg up than I did. And hopefully you'll be better at tracking your fuel and hitting your fuel bonuses than I am. I know I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to, consistently be able to hit my fuel bonuses, but it's been pretty tough so far. So right now I'm in Aurora, Colorado. We did a delivery of Kleenex, boxes of Kleenexes, from Kimberly-Clark, and we delivered it over here in Denver. And I pulled out from the dock when they were done, and there was still a pallet back there. And so I knew I was going to have to deal with OS&D. Well, when I went and checked out with the Garchak, they told me, yeah, they're rejecting that pallet because it has a broken pallet board, and they can't slide it onto another pallet. I'm like, all right, well, cool. So now I'm been waiting around to see what we're going to do next. And I had a pre-plan on me that was going to head us over to Iowa, which I'm not sure if we're going to head out on that load or not. I was kind of hoping to go to the Walcott, Iowa, the Iowa 80 truck stop. The biggest truck stop in the United States. But, man, these trucks are loud. So, hopefully I'll be able to go up there, maybe not, but that's a cool truck stop. If you ever get up that way, it's in Walcott, Iowa, the Iowa 80 truck stop. Biggest truck stop in the United States. And they have a truck museum too there, and lots and lots and lots of parking. Man, they've got a lot of parking. You park on one side, it'll take you like 15 minutes just to walk to the store. It's huge. But it's really cool. I really like going there, checking out all the chrome, and they've got trucks inside the main store that they have on display, custom Peterbilts and custom Kenworths and stuff like that. It's been a long time since I've been there. I'm kind of curious if they still have those trucks in there. I would assume that they do. And if any of you stop by there and see them, and shoot me a comment on here and say, yeah, they still have the trucks there. I just don't know. I haven't been there in so long. So thanks for all your suggestions on content, and I hope that this helps. I hope this helps you guys be able to hit your fuel bonuses and make a little bit of extra money. You know, we come out here and we work hard, and we come out here to make those bonuses. And anything that I can do to help you guys out, I'm more than willing to share my knowledge with you and try to help you out the best that I can. I will add one little note on the DriveSmart. We have sensors in the trucks, and there's a bunch of sensors that will activate if you hit the brakes too hard, if you swerve too hard, or if you're following too close. Well, on the following too close, there's usually an alarm that'll start beeping. If that beeping starts going off, you need to hit your brakes. You need to actually depress your brake pedal. It doesn't matter how hard you hit it, but you just need to apply your brakes within so many seconds of that alarm going off, or it'll give you an event. So if anybody cuts you off in traffic, cuts in too close and then slows down, make sure you just apply those brakes immediately after that vehicle comes into your lane and you hear that beeping. Get on your brakes right away so that it won't give you an event. And then you got to do your monthly training video on the Knight University on the app on your phone. You got to complete the monthly training video or class or lesson or whatever the case may be. You've got to do that, and then you've got to have no preventable accidents, and then you'll hit your safety bonus. And then as far as production, if you try to do 550 miles a day or 600 miles a day consistently, wake up early, wake up at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then try to shut down at about 5, 6 o'clock at night, you should be able to kind of consistently do 500 to 600 miles a day, and you should be able to produce over 10,000 miles a month, no problem. So I hope that helps, because, you know, if you hit all those bonuses, that could be a pretty big check. You know, you're talking an extra $800 if you hit them all. So I know if you hit just 2 or 3 of them, it's about 400. If you don't hit any of them, it's 0, of course. But so if you're managing fuel and you know that your trip is, you know, you got to take your onboard fuel, and then, like I said, if you don't know how much you have on, that's why you have to verify your fuel level and how much fuel you have on your truck, so that you know how much you actually have on board. But if you take your onboard fuel, you'll be able to tell how far you can make it with the fuel that you have on board. And then if you take your projected MPG or your current MPG that you're getting on the truck, and you'll be able to project out how much range you'll get. Now keep in mind that if you have a heavy load on and you normally only get 6.5 miles per gallon with 46,000 pounds in the box, then you need to know that your MPG is going to be lower with 46,000 pounds in the box going up through Oregon, California, or any of these big hills and grades out here. But if you're light, 20,000, 15,000, less than, of freight in the box, then you know that you're going to get about 8. So just keep that in mind, that load will change your MPG quite a bit, and it has quite the impact on your fuel. And also check your fuel filters. There's a fuel filter under your hood. It's a see-through filter, and there's a fuel level inside there. And when that fuel level gets up towards the top, the filter's bad. If that filter's bad, then you'll get worse MPG. It'll start dropping your performance on your truck. So if you look at that fuel filter, and it's a clear see-through filter housing that you can see through, and you'll be able to see a level of diesel fuel in there. It's a fuel water separator as well. But when that fuel level gets all the way up to the top of that canister, then you know that fuel filter is bad, because that means that the fuel is not able to get through the filter to travel into the engine. And if it gets bad enough, it can damage your injectors, and it can damage your engine as well. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you like this video, please hit that like button and the subscribe button and the notification bell. And as always, thanks for watching, and God bless you all.